Let's bring in business editor Ross Greenwood. Ross, I've got to say this has been quite remarkable, this Senate committee, and the former CEO really, making some quite big claims. One, that she was humiliated by the Prime Minister, affected her health as a result, and two, that she was bullied by that man there, the chair.
Yeah, and that's precisely it. She also believes that she did not resign and ultimately that her resignation that was actually put out by Australia Post was illegal. Remember here that one thing, she's not looking for any money. So she's looking here for satisfaction in regards to her reputation. And that is key here. So the important part about this is she believes that effectively she has been sacked from her position as Chief Executive of Australia Post for the wrong reasons. She believes it's largely as a result of the Prime Minister going onto the floor of Parliament House and calling for her to resign as a result of the gifts of these watches. Now, if we go through some of this today, let's just pick up a little of Christine Holgate earlier today, talking about why she believes ultimately she was pushed out of this job. Have a listen.
The simple truth is, I was bullied out of my job. I was humiliated and driven to despair. I was thrown under the bus so the chairman of Australia Post could curry favour with his political masters.
In other words, what she's saying here, Kieran, it's about political favours. Now, what she's also suggesting, therefore, as a result, is that the chair of Australia Post, Lucio Di Bartolomeo, who we've been hearing from in the last little while, effectively was put under pressure by the government to get her out of that job as a result of really, in many ways, even it not passing the pub test. So let's go first off to the chairman this afternoon talking about this, and even then what she herself had indicated. Here's a little of the chairman of Australia Post.
I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed with how she was treated from the point of the Senate. From that point on, I'm very disappointed for a lot of things that have happened over the process. I do believe that we have done everything to try and support Christine through that. I certainly do not recall a conversation where Christine agreed to stand down.
So that there actually Sue Davies, who was the head of people and culture at Australia Post, still in the position today, appearing in a personal capacity alongside Christine Holgate, providing support for Christine Holgate today. So you can see the way in which this is going to split Australia Post, Kieran, and really important. But if we now go to the chair of Australia Post, Lucio Di Bartolomeo, and hear what he had to say in regards to the resignation or the apparent resignation of Christine Holgate, even though she says she never resigned.
Christine, in her public statement on the 2nd of November last year, acknowledged this. I deeply regret, quote, a decision made 2 years ago has caused so much debate and distraction, and I appreciate the optics of the gift involved do not meet the pub test for many. There was no policies that she contravened, there's no doubt about that.
So what he's actually saying there is that no policies had been contravened. In fact, it was actually pointed out that the previous chief executive of Australia Post had paid much more for potential tickets to people to go to Olympic Games and for accommodation and for entertainment as compared with these watches, which became so contentious. So then you come back to the central point is, well, why is Christine Holgate out of the job? And that's the point that she makes, of course, is that she believes that as a result of the Prime Minister going onto the floor of Parliament and then actually calling for her resignation, that then there must have been some conversations between the chairman and the government. Though the chairman says he's never spoken to the Prime Minister in his life, he certainly has spoken to the Communications Minister. And it started as soon as Christine Holgate had given that evidence in the Senate committee about these watches. It happened very quickly and just before the Prime Minister went onto the floor of Parliament and called for her resignation. Have a listen again to Lucio Di Bartolomeo.
So he called you at 1:09 and said, I want you to stand Ms Holgate aside. He called you again at 1:30 and said, just confirming, I want you to stand Ms Holgate aside.
So I queried whether that was the best course of action. He said, let me talk to my other shareholder ministers. He did, came back and confirmed the initial position.
But you don't take that as a direction?
No.
So who do you imagine, Kieran, would be those other shareholder ministers? Those, of course, would be the Minister for Finance, who at the time would have been Matthias Cormann, and it would have been the Prime Minister, the ultimate shareholder. So, as I say, that is the course of action that's taken place today. Christine Holgate says that she would otherwise have wanted to go back into that job as Chief Executive of Australia Post. But, of course, that role has now been filled just yesterday and ahead of this explosive evidence today.
Timing is everything. Thank you, Ross.